Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the 12 Talk podcast. My name's Josh, and with me, as always, is my co-host and podcasting partner in crime, Mitch. We've got a very special guest for you today, all the way from Germany. And no, it's not Jonas. This is Pascal, who is another member of the German Seahawkers. Now, I had the pleasure of being on the Ballhawkers podcast with Pascal, and I do apologise as I've got a bit of reverb there. But we're going to have a fantastic pod again today. We're going to be looking at the Seahawks season review series. Now, as some of you will probably know, we've done this with some other podcasters before, and now we're going to be doing it with one of the German Seahawkers as well. So this is I'm sorry, I'm having some massive technical difficulties here. I'm not sure what's happening. This is typical, isn't it? Mitch, anyway, tell us how you're doing, mate. Well, how's your week been? Better than the way I've started this pod, obviously.
I can't wait to hear myself through your mic. Yeah, good week.
Professional outfit.
Absolutely, yeah. I started a new job this week, so all of my focus has been on not making an absolute mess of it. So I've been trying to keep up with Seahawks news along the way, but every time I try and catch up with any kind of NFL news this week, I have to hear about the Chiefs and their love affair with the refs of the NFL, which seems to be the dominating news story this week. So almost the job is a nice distraction from the garbage run up to
Super Bowl,
the inevitable three-peat that we're all going to have to sit through on Sunday.
Do you think? Oh, that's one of my questions to Pascal at the end. Oh,
okay, well,
I can't wait.
I'll swerve
it for now.
How are you, mate? You good?
Yeah, good. Been busy few weeks. I was out in Norfolk last week, and then we got back on Friday and went on to the Ballhawks with Pascal and Jonas, which was a fantastic time. So for anyone who's watching or is subscribed to our Spotify or Amazon Music, I'll put that up today as well, so you can hear exactly what we said. And yeah, it's just been manic, to be honest. It's that time of year in my industry where it's a constant go. But before we bring Pascal on, we've got a few things that we like to shout out on the pod. Now, firstly, as some of you will know, we are the official podcast of the UK Seahawkers, and you can join the UK Seahawkers for just £12. So for one individual, £12, £20 for a family membership up to 4. It's an additional £5 per postage per membership if you are outside the UK, but you can pay that through PayPal. Nice and easy. You get access to social events, which I'll talk to you about in a second. You get 10% discount at the pro shop. You're eligible for game day field passes as well, if they're available, and there's access to members-only competitions. This year, we got this fantastic bunch of stash. We got our wristband, as always, our patch. We got our membership card and an RFD card, just to stop those people cloning your cards. And talking about socials, we have our annual meetup in Glasgow. Mitch and I have just been talking travel plans and how we're going to get there. It's looking like a flight for me, because I live in the back end of Beyond in Essex, and it's ridiculous amounts of money for trains. So I am going to be flying my way to Glasgow.
Be ready to spend more time in the airport and getting your bags checked than actually in the air, by the way.
I don't care. Don't care. It's still not 7.5 hours on a train. So, and Seahawk of the Month is back. If you are a member of any of the Seahawks chapters, you should get an email from your chapter president for you to nominate your Seahawker of the Month. Please do so. You can nominate anyone who brings a positive light to the Seahawks community or within their community, or is just a super fan. And because we haven't shouted them out for a little while, some of you may know that we are the proud supporters of the Robbing Cancer Trust. And Toby, you can see him there wearing that, pointed the wrong way. You can tell we've been off for a couple of weeks, can't you? Wearing that fine pair of testicles. Toby is doing his own big ballsy challenge where he is looking to run 500 kilometers plus dressed as a ball bag. Now, I've known Tubbs for a long time. There's a lot of things I could say about him, but that is a fantastic cause. So You all know the story of the RCT. We've said it on here multiple times. The Freeman family who set up the RCT lost their son and brother Robin, and he was just 24 in 2012. And they've set this up with a view to trying to help people spot the signs and help people through things like testicular and ovarian cancer. Toby's goal is to raise awareness, get people talking bollocks, and to raise £240,000. That is a lofty goal, and I will be donating to try and help him there. But you can follow him on Instagram, on Facebook. I think they're on X as well. And if you can, by all means, give something, or just keep tabs on Toby. Make sure he's okay. If he runs near you, go and see him. I'm pretty sure he'd be quite happy with a cup of tea. But shall we bring our guest in? Because I am eager to see what he has to say. And if he mentions Kobe Bryant to you, okay, and any conversation he and I had, just know he's lying. Just remember, I'm your co-host here. All right.
Okay.
But we'll explain it as we get through. All right.
Sure.
On the other side, let's do this. Here he is, the man at the end, Pascal. Pascal, my friend, how are you doing? Moin, moin.
Moin zusammen, as we say in northern Germany. So actually, I'm doing really good. I mean, it's late at Friday, talking about Seahawks, meeting you two guys here. So the best chance to talk about football, and can't wait to hear what you have to say. And yeah, meet you again.
It's what you've got to say in this one, dude. We've like I said, we've had some fantastic guests so far. This is episode 4, and we're asking people the same questions, but we're trying to get a different take every single time. I think some of these you and I may have gone through on Ball Hawks, so it should be relatively easy for you to come through them. But we'll have Mitch's input as well as to what you think. So you remember the German Seahawkers? You and I have met along with Jonas for beers in London. We had some fantastic chats about the Seahawks, and I'm hoping now that we can bring that together in a podcasting format. Although I did find out this be your second ever podcast, won't it?
Actually, yes. Kind of surprising last time for Jonas and yourself, but it's my second time in a podcast. Yeah, that's right.
Excellent. Well, we'll make you comfortable and not put you on the spot at all. Shall we kick off with the questions? And then you can tell us what your answers are for this. So, firstly, how did Mike MacDonald do in year 1?
So basically, I think the last time when we asked this question, I was mainly talking about the defense improvements.
Yeah.
And I think that's something I really want to focus again, as I already said. So I don't want to repeat myself that often.
No, dude, repeat yourself away, because that was Ball Hawks. This is 12 Talk, so
that's true.
We're live.
So basically, to connect each other, basically what I think he did really great was the improvements on the defensive side of the ball, especially reducing the missed tackles throughout the season. That was something which was really getting on my nerves, especially with the linebackers we had the last couple of seasons. And that was something where the linebackers especially stood out. I think the pressures are nearly the same. The sack amount was also nearly the same. So it was surprisingly the same amount of sacks and pressures, which I wasn't really expecting. But what I also found it really interesting is that the air yards were also reduced during Mike MacDonald's reign. So basically the defense was great after the bye week. But especially the stats were really, really great there. I think on the offensive side on the ball, we have a lot of to-dos for the next few seasons. So basically, what is really great is that he made this decision to get a new offensive coordinator in. That was really surprising after 1 year. So basically, how did he or how was his performance in year one? I think he really did great. So I would give him I think two minus, as we say in Germany. So it's nearly like in 7 out of 10, something like that.
Call it a B plus.
Yeah, like a B.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. So I think he did really great. So that's what I basically want to say.
Yeah, I like it. I think we've all had sort of like the general consensus is that he had a good first season. You know, he turned around this defense, like I said, from the bye week. The offense, he was kind of hamstrung. I think I've voiced my opinion on the offense and the firing of Grubb now, even though I spent most of the season trying to protect him, Mitch, and say you can't install something in 1 year, speaking from a coach, and you should see improvements, but you didn't. But I think everyone would agree that it's been a solid B plus A minus year, there or thereabouts for me. Do you agree, Mitch?
Yeah, I do. I think it's difficult to bring in new philosophies and a new playbook and work with players you haven't worked with before and coaches you haven't worked with before and make something coherent from day one. But actually, I think the way that he integrated the basics and the mindset really worked far faster than I thought it would for the defense. And then we also saw him being really aggressive with making changes to things that clearly weren't working, like the linebacker situation, like we've seen now with Grubb as well. When things aren't working, I don't know if he's a man for second chances. I think he kind of just sees what he sees and acts upon it. And I kind of like that high conviction mindset in comparison to Pete, who seemed to be more tolerant, give people more chances, make excuses for them, protect them in the media. Mike Mac's just gone, this isn't working for me. Let's reinvent it. Let's go. So he surprised me with the impact and how quickly he implemented things. And he also surprised me with how cutthroat he was with his decision making. And both of those things bode really well because there's pages and pages of these playbooks that we've not seen yet. And we were competitive without opening that part of the book. So that's where I am with Mike Mac. Loads more to come.
Yeah, 100%. All right. With that, Mitch, you're up next.
Yeah. So, Pascal, what stood out for you this year? What moment stood out for you the most? What are you going to remember about 2024 from a Seahawks perspective the most? Could be a game, could be a moment, a decision. What stands out?
So basically, I think the moment or the point of the season which is really standing out for me was especially the bye week. That's a funny thing. So it wasn't really a game; it was a bye week. And normally, if you look at the Seahawks through the bye weeks of the couple past years, nothing really happened. There wasn't really big adjustments which we really noticed. But I think especially that season, when the season began, we were really hyped. Then the same mistakes were occurring during the games. We were like, okay, that's a typical Seahawks season. Maybe one more win than losses at the end. And when Mike MacDonald chose to trade Baker and cut Dotson, was really a surprising move because we hadn't had that depth on the linebacker position and for a couple of years. So before Mike MacDonald also, it was kind of surprising that he was bringing in Ernest Jones, which I was really hyped for, and letting Tyrese Knight start, especially at the end of the season, and bringing out the talent for a fourth-round pick linebacker. And that's really the turnaround and the standout moment for me. When I should name a week, it's the bye week for me. And that was kind of surprising and kind of cool that the bye week can really turn things around.
Yeah, we had quite a late bye week this season, didn't we? I think the season before we had a week 5 bye week.
Yeah.
I think in 2023. And then this year it was what? Was it week 8, 9? Might be later than that.
Yeah.
Maybe it would have been 10. Yeah, I think that actually helped Mike Mac because he was able to make decisions based on a good sample size of games. If we'd had like a week 5 again, it may have been too early to make those decisions. So I think that helped as well. But funnily enough, on my spreadsheet I've got on my left, I've answered the questions.
It's always a spreadsheet.
There's always a spreadsheet, but I've answered the questions as well, and I gave Mike Mac a 7 out of 10, and my answer to standout moment of the season is linebacker decisions picking up Ernest Jones. So far, Pascal, we are bang on, locked in step with these. So
I also,
what about you?
I also have a cheat where I'm looking at. So I'm also
cheat sheet.
and I bet we have like 80% of the answers in the same way. But
don't give away all the backstage secrets. Okay, so next up then, and you may say one player. We spoke about this on Ball Hawks. Who was your standout player?
So basically, it was hard when you sent me the question. I was thinking about, should I talk about just defense? I chose JSN as an offense player. I also had Leonard Williams, Ernest Jones, and Tyrese Knight on that list. But I don't want to talk about defense. I really want to talk about offense now. So basically, my standout player was JSN, and it was kind of cool to see how the Seahawks were attacking the middle of the field. Especially Gene was a quarterback in that collapsing pocket. And I chose JSN, I think 100 recs, over 1,100 yards, 6 touchdowns. And that was kind of impressive to see him evolving, especially in the system. So it was nothing, or there were also good points in the Ryan Grubb system, and JSN was definitely one of them. He was basically the consistent side on the receiving room there, and that's where JSN is my standout player, and not a defensive player this time. So
I don't think we've had JSN as an answer.
Oh, really?
No.
Do you want to know what's on my answer sheet?
Yeah.
JSN and Leonard Williams. But they're the obvious two, right? That one's less surprising.
Should I leave so you two can just do this pod together?
No,
yeah, if you could,
it'd be pretty boring because you've both got the exact same ideas. So
yeah, it wouldn't work.
But yeah, JSN had a standout. This was his coming out party, and obviously he was awarded with a Pro Bowl sort of backup, which then became Pro Bowl honors. Not that the Pro Bowl means a lot; it's basically just a holiday with some school sports included now. But he was an absolute standout, and I'm glad you went offense because I don't think anyone has. I think everyone's pointing to the defense.
Yeah.
So nice. Okay. All right. This might be the question then. Which player surprised you the most?
Maybe I should change the question and ask you what player really surprised you the most,
Josh. So on your pod, I said that I thought the highlight of this season was the emergence of RB2 and 3. But which player surprised me the most? And following on from our conversation over beers in London, it was Kobe Bryant. But I will caveat this. So anyone who hasn't listened to that pod, I put it up today under the 12 Talk audio. Pascal and I had a conversation in London where he was really high on Kobe Bryant. And I was skeptical for reasons that we've discussed on this pod a lot. And that is very much he is a bit bigger and he's too slow. He doesn't have the elite athleticism to be a cornerback in the NFL. Mentioned it multiple times on this pod. He'd get burnt by all the elite wide receivers. However, moving him to safety seems to have been a masterstroke, because between him and J Love, I think we've got a safety tandem there for years. There you go. Yeah. That's mine, and that's the. I'm just going to caveat that by saying, like, I didn't think he was an elite. He was good enough to be a cornerback in the NFL.
I think we had this discussion back then when we talked about cornerback 2, and I was not that high on Trey Brown, and I'm still not high on Trey Brown. And I was kind of convinced of Kobe Bryant. Of course, he's kind of a physical player, and he made a lot of mistakes especially at the beginning when Jenkins was hurt and Kobe Bryant took over, you could really see that he was still adapting until the end of the season, made some not rookie mistakes, but basically mistakes which starting safety shouldn't do. But I think he was really surprisingly fitting well the system and clearing out a lot of missed tackles when there were a couple of them. Also picked up some interceptions and a pick six. So basically, although I was really high on him, I wasn't really expecting him to be a starting safety in the Seahawks defense and evolving that soon or in that kind of way he did. So yeah, basically that's my answer.
It's a great answer, and we've got people appearing in the chat, one of which is Mr. Bryce Coots from the Hawks on Rundown and the Pick Is In podcast. There you go, give you a cheeky little plug there, Bryce. He's just said Kobe Bryant is a stud safety, my man, and I think you're right. I think he has got the ability to be a safety for the Seahawks for years to come. If anyone else in the chat wants to put something out there as well about anything we discussed, by all means do. As you all know, we're a pretty free-flowing pod, and we're here with you guys having a chat. And this time we get a chat with one of our German Seahawk friends. So I always love these chats. Right, Mitch, we're on to you, my friend.
Yeah, let's talk rookie class. So how did this rookie class perform for you? You can pick out standouts and disappointments, or you can talk about it as a whole. How do you feel about this class?
Actually, I was kind of surprised about the first couple of picks we had, because I think Byron Murphy, when I should call them out as standouts, Byron Murphy, AJ Barner, Tyrese Knight, and also the tackle, which name was it again? Mike Jarrell in the sixth round.
Jarrell.
He is not a standout, don't get me wrong, but I think these are the positive picks compared to what their draft value is and which draft pick was used. Especially Byron Murphy, although he was hurt, he was really standing out in the rookie season, and I think he was one of the best defensive tackles in the rookie class, especially against the run. So that was kind of good to support Leonard Williams in the run stopping ability, as well as the other old big guys there. AJ Barner was, I think, standing out more and more throughout the season. And I bet in the future will play a major role, especially with the contract situation of Noah Fant. Tyrese Knight was great. When I watched the tape, I was really like, oh, that's a guy who can really play in the Mike MacDonald system. And yeah, as I said, the sixth round pick for offensive tackle was also okay compared to the value. I think the big low light when I leave the sixth round picks out, because they are sixth round picks, so my expectations weren't really high. My big low light, unfortunately, is the third round pick with Haynes, because he wasn't really, although he was experienced, and I think he had like 5 years or 6 years at the college, he wasn't really adapting to the physical and speedy NFL offensive line. And I think he wasn't really fitting into the system, and he will not fit, I guess, maybe in the Kubiak system. So standout were really Tyrese Knight, AJ Barner, Byron Murphy, maybe Jarrell, and low light, just Haynes for me. So that's basically what I was a little bit disappointed, but in general, I think we did great compared to the last few drafts, and we really filled in some gaps without really picking best player available as we did in the past few years. So that's my general opinion on the draft class.
Yeah.
What do you think, Mitch?
Yeah, I agree with. I mean, the players you picked out as having good years or being valuable picks, or getting good value out of those picks, I completely agree. I think Byron Murphy's an interesting one, because you've mentioned him, and I think you're the first person in this series to acknowledge that he played the season with repeated injury interruptions. He also played in college with, and I'm blanking on the name, is it Sweat? The nose tackle he played with. Yes, thank you. Yeah, he played with a really, really impactful nose tackle. That meant that in college they tried to double team him a lot, but they also had another man next to him that needed a double team, and teams struggled to contain the two of them. Well, this year he was the guy being contained, and Leonard Williams and Jaron Reed were the ones feasting off the back of that. So his impact this year has actually, for me, been really good despite the injuries. But his impact has come through freeing up other players and being the catalyst for other people to feast this year. So as long as teams have to scheme to stop him, we're going to have a good defensive line off of that. Some people get very carried away with stats and would like to see our first round pick have 5 or 6 sacks and a load of TFLs. The fact is, he was a factor in every game he was out there, and we were better at stopping the run and creating havoc with him out there. And that bodes so well for the rest of his career as a Seahawk. So I'm with you. I feel like even though the stats weren't there for him, he did more than we could ask for in year one, I think.
And mentioning AJ Barner, who on this podcast we refer to as Mitch's boy, AJ Barner, because Mitch in the last 2 years has picked out 2 Michigan players that the Seahawks will draft, and he's got them both right in Mike Morris and AJ Barner. And I think from the chat, it's a consensus with AJ Barner. We've got Bryce coming in with AJ Barner is tight end 1. Gary, hello, Gary. AJ had a very good rookie season and hopefully bodes well for the future. And our friend Jonas, AJ Barner, Mitch's boy, and also a favourite of one particular German Seahawker, a great consensus pick for the European Seahawkers. Yeah, we're all on the same page. We've got Levi has come in. Oh, this is actually a draft question. If the best guard makes it out of the top 10, should we go up and get him?
This is fascinating. I can't wait to get into the draft stuff this offseason.
Let's have a quick deviation from the questions. Come on.
Okay, well, let's just very quickly talk.
Go for this one.
You want me to, or you want?
Go. Yeah, go.
You have
go.
to
Okay,
go.
cool. Right. So I just want to say on the subject of guard, we don't often see many guards taken with first round picks, right? Because you end up paying guards more than traditional guard money. So guards typically are not a first round pick unless they're right at the back end, 26 to 32. We have a situation this year where the best 5 offensive linemen in the draft are tackles that will play guard at the next level. So if you want to take an offensive lineman in the first round, you have to pick a guard. The positional value of taking a guard with a first round pick isn't there generally. Historically, that's the case. So I do think we're going to get a pick of one of the top 3 tackle / guards in this class, whether that be Kelvin Banks, whether that's someone like Wyatt Milam, or whether we get Booker fall to us at 18. There's so many players that can really improve this O-line that will fall to 18 without us having to go up to 10. There's no reason to trade up to take a guard. We might be, if we trade up in the first round to take a guard, we might be the first NFL team that's ever traded up in the first round to get a guard.
Can you genuinely see John Schneider doing that?
No, I can't. But what I'm trying to say is there is a wealth of offensive line talent that will play guard at the next level with first round grades on them that will be available at 18. We are spoilt for that if we want to do it in round 1.
There you go. There's some draft insight from Mitch straight away. And then finally, we've got Gary coming in again saying Jarrell was certainly valued as a 6th rounder. And I saw Instagram posts earlier showing that Jarrell is already in the lab doing work, trying to get better. And that's what you want from someone who's picked in the 6th round, has had starting reps in the NFL and gone, I need to improve. And he's in there already. Season hasn't even finished. Well, for 2 teams at least. And he's already putting in some work. So I'm looking forward to seeing how he progresses. Next one then, Pascal. What was the Seahawks' biggest failing in 2024?
Bringing in Ryan Grubb? No. Just kidding. So basically, I think the biggest failing was the free agency. So before the season, as well as establishing an offensive identity. I mean, as you said, it takes a couple of years to really having an offense identity. But I couldn't really see an identity throughout the game, especially designing the plays through or before the game for the first quarter, for example. So basically, you often could see us running out of gun formations because our offensive line wasn't really supporting the run and giving Gino the time to step back and then handing the ball over, because this would really occur in a lot of backfield tackles, so tackle for losses. And I was kind of fan the first few games, also the screen game and the variation of different kinds of play calls. But throughout the season, it was really getting worse and worse, and it wasn't really an offense for Ryan Grobb, although the players were there, except the offensive line, except the guards and the center, to be honest. And I think that was the biggest failing, especially also looking at the free agency, because I think I'm not quite sure which name I used the last time when we talked about this in a podcast, but I think it's if you look at the free agents which we signed, it seems like a list or like a waivers list.
You said it was an all-star waivers list. Yeah,
all-star waivers. Right, that's what I said. So like an all-star waivers list. If you look really at the free agents and their impact, I think the biggest name was Rayshon Jenkins, and we all know how that worked out. So I would really say the free agency was really the biggest failing before the season, and while being at the season, it's really the offensive identity there. That would be my two answers to that one question.
like it. Again, I don't think we've had free agency come up as a failing yet, and I think you're right. So Pascal's lost a microphone, I think. That's fine. Don't worry.
It's back again.
It's the problem with going live. Everything goes wrong. That's why there are some podcasts out there that can quite happily look really sleek, but then when you peel back the curtain, you know there's hours of editing involved. So anyone who goes live can tell you these things happen. I'm just waiting for somebody to fall down from above me and my display back there. Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, I agree with you, to be honest. I mean, Mitch, go on.
No, I've on my list, I've got offensive identity, which I think most of the people have said. You hinted at it, but went a different way. I really like your answer of free agency, because whoever you pick from free agency this year, you'll find a lot of people being very negative about that selection. Whether it was Fant at tackle, who didn't play, Noah Fant, who we never gave the ball to, whether it's Rayshon Jenkins, who lost his spot to the forgotten man, Kobe Bryant, the linebackers that didn't make it past the bye week. Whoever you look at, even when you look at our backup quarterback that we made a trade for. I know that's not a free agency move, but when we did get a look at him, it was like, okay, well, he really did make Gino look like a starting quarterback in the NFL when we saw him. So there was a lot of decisions in that offseason, whether it was trades or free agency, that just didn't seem like they could contribute. And the one thing I'd add to your point there, Pascal, was I feel like John Schneider had gone out to give Mike Mack the toolbox that he thought he needed: the safeties, the linebackers, the backup tackle in case Abe Lucas missed the year. Like, he gave him a toolbox that he thought fit Grubb's system and Mike Mack's defense. They just didn't. It just, what he thought was a scheme fit for Mike Mack just wasn't. So what I'm excited for going forward, and this ties us into our next question, what I'm really excited for is Mike Mack getting a full off season to target free agents and draft picks that fit what he's trying to do, rather than someone guessing what is a Mike Mac player, what is a Ryan Grubb player. Mike Mac now knows what he's working with, what he needs, what didn't work, and he's got the time. So on that note, what reasons can you give us to be optimistic about the Seahawks' future and next year?
So when you sent me the question, I was thinking about, should I give the answer Mike MacDonald, or should I give the answer Klint Kubiak and Mike MacDonald? Because as you said, we now have a real full off season of Mike MacDonald where he can make the decisions. I mean, he already did one with the Ryan Grubb hiring and bringing in Klint Kubiak, and it's really interesting that Klint Kubiak also worked in New Orleans with a defensive head coach, and that's seems kind of fitting to Seattle. I was also surprised about the Saints' performance. I'm not really a Derek Carr lover, but I'm a hype man for him. That's history. I could tell you history and the story behind that, but it was kind of surprising that with the tools and the good offensive line, and especially the cap in New Orleans, that they did really think 40 plus games beginning of the season multiple times in the offense. And the reason why I'm really optimistic is that it seems that the system from Kubiak can work with the tools he is having at the Seahawks, except the offensive line currently, because he needs he needs really not fast, but he has that kind of a white zone formation, white zone concept which he's playing. So a lot of pulling guards, a lot of pulling tight ends, and that's something where currently a big question mark is behind it when looking at the tight end room, especially with no offense contract, as well as the offensive line of the Seahawks. So basically, that's my optimistic point, that after Ryan Grubb, it can only be better when looking at a system. I don't know how they will adapt the system, because we weren't sure how Mike MacDonald was really bringing his defensive scheme into the Seahawks. But I'm really optimistic that Klint Kubiak can bring out the best out of the offense if he's having a better O-line or better O-line concept, which fits into the system. That's basically my answer. The combination of Mike MacDonald and Kubiak as new fresh faces in the Seahawks. Yeah.
It's a good one as well. And I think with Kubiak, we might actually see some screens that work as well, maybe. Some screens that work and some JSN, schemed up plays. I genuinely think that could be part of what we see created here. Really sort of dialing into JSN's strengths and skill set as well. So I think that could be really interesting to watch unfold.
Yeah, so one thing, we've got a couple of questions coming. I'm going to save them for the appropriate points of this. But one thing from Bryce, the Hawks O-line is built better for zone scheme than power gap. And I think this is where sort of Christian Haynes may find himself a better fit in the O-line. Sataola Mayer as well. People like Bradford might struggle. Olu, with the way Kubiak likes to have his center call the protections, he's a very intelligent player, and he proved that all throughout college. I think he may, the O-line as it stands may suit this game better. I'm not saying that it's still going to be one of the top O-lines in the league, but they may find it easier to cope with the scheme and the play calling. But let's see. Mitch. So the next question, I'll let you sort of give us your answers, Pascal, and then we've got a question that's coming from Bryce again.
Okay, so who are your top 3 cut or trade candidates for this offseason?
So I'm letting out DK and Gino, because when you look at the cap, that would maybe make sense, but not looking at the players and the talent. So I would start with George Fant, which we talked about. I think that was not really a good thing bringing him in. That would save 4 to 5 million. I think one interesting question which we have to maybe discuss is Draymond Jones, because his post-June or pre-June 11 or 17 million or something like that would really bring in some room for other players. Rayshon Jenkins is obviously a big candidate. The other fan, Noah fan, is a big one, especially looking at the tight end room, and I think it's 9 million without a dead cap or something like that. And then there is also the question about Tyler Lockett as well as Nwosu. And I think these are much more harder decisions. I don't know what will happen with Lockett, maybe retiring, maybe going to the Raiders. I don't know.
Maybe Vegas. I'd love that, because he's one of the most devout Christian players that we've ever had, and they're going to put him in the city of sin.
Yeah, maybe he can also sell houses there. I don't know.
He'd make a load of money there as well.
Yeah, definitely. But basically, I think the fans and Jenkins are the obvious ones and the easy to cut. And then we should discuss about Draymond Jones as well as Tyler Lockett and Nwosu, because these cuts from a injury standpoint from Nwosu makes sense. I think he hadn't played a season without an injury throughout the last 2 or 3 years. And Lockett, obviously, because of the cap hit and the production, as well as Draymond Jones, he was good at the defense, don't get me wrong, and he was consistently making pressures. But if you look at the cap and the salary, it doesn't really make sense to have him for that kind of salary at the roster. So these were my candidates where I'm excited to hear your opinions about Lockett, Jones, and Nwosu there.
So, well, with Chenna, let's get to a question that Bryce asked. So straight off the bat, I have a question for all three of you. What do you think happens with Chenna as he's due a $6 million injury guarantee on February 14th? Do you think he's kept or cut?
For me, it's a cut. I think it's a cut and with an offer of returning, similar to what we saw with Carlos Dunlap, when we fully intended to bring Dunlap back, but there was a period of time where we cut him and he tested free agency before returning. I think Chenna, we put a lot of faith in Chenna and we paid him. And I think that relationship with John Schneider, as long as things are done above the table and with full clarity, I think there may be an opportunity there to work something. But I do think that will happen quite soon. This first wave of free agency will see Chenna as a free agent, in my opinion, with a good offer to return. That's my take.
Pascal?
Yeah, totally agreeing with this opinion. I think, as I said, he's not really injury prone, and he wasn't really productive, and especially because we have those young talents at the outside linebacker position. I think it only makes sense to have him at a lower cap number in the roster if this really makes sense. So, yeah, totally with you there.
I agree. I thought Chenna was fantastic. I think the injuries really, really hampered him. But it's one of those horrible things in sport where a star player can get injured, and because of that injury, someone's got to step into their shoes. That person who steps into their shoes could then have a standout season. Derek Hall, where I thought he was brilliant. He had a breakout season, much like Mafe did. And now you've got Mafe and Hall on the edges. If Chenna is cut and then brought back on a different contract, that's a rotation of 3 that would work. We don't know what's going to happen with Draymond. No one actually knows what position he plays at the moment, because he is all over that D-line, and he, in my opinion, not very effective at any. I tend to agree. I think he's a definite cut candidate, with a view of bringing him back on a restructured contract. That would save us some cap. I mean,
I was just going to say, if you were to cut him, save that money and pick up someone like, you might like this name actually, Josh, Jordan Birch from Oregon. That is a thicker bodied edge rusher that can play all the way along the D-line, can stop the run and create havoc. And I see Jordan Birch with a second-round pick as a great option to potentially get more production out of a rookie and save money by cutting Draymond Jones. So, and there's a few players like that in this draft as well that could do that for you. Is it Josiah Stewart at Michigan as well? I know I have to drop a Michigan name every year and then wish it to happen. So we'll have Josiah this year. Write that one down. But there's a few players that could do the job that Draymond Jones has done at a fraction of the price and get similar or better production, honestly.
You could get a groundskeeper to do the job that Draymond Jones has done, because he's done nothing apart from take up space on the field, in my opinion. I said this on. There are a few players that I'm done with the experiment. Draymond is one of them. The other one is Tariq Woolen. I'm over the Tariq experiment now. I think a lot of people go, "What, really?" But yeah, I'm sorry. I don't think he's fit for Mike Mack's defense. I think Mike Mack needs someone who is able to tackle, is actually a threat in contact, does what he needs him to do. And I don't think Tariq's that fella. But before I cop too much hate from anyone in the comments or on social media, let's move on to the next one. So, Pascal, give us your 3-point winning formula to success in 2025.
Actually, that's a good question, because I think we are sticking together because, as said, we really, on the defensive side of the ball, we have to stay disciplined and really sticking to players sticking to their assignments, because you could really see Woolen often throughout the season that he was not really sticking to his assignments, missed tackles, and wasn't really disciplined enough to play in that defense. For the example, the cover zero overtime killer against the Rams, I was in the stadium. I was like, how could you rely on a safety which isn't even there when we're playing cover zero? And also Witherspoon, I love him. Spoon is really a standout player in our defense, but at the last game against the Rams, you could really see him heavily beaten, I think 2 or 3 times for a touchdown, where he was too greedy getting a tackle or a sack and was not really sticking to his assignments and making a tackle after 2 yards or whatever. So that's really something.
Spoon slander on this podcast.
No, I'm not a slander. I just say every player has to really stick to their assignments. I love Spoon, don't get me wrong. I hate Trey Brown, but that's another thing.
I know.
So that's really one point. Everybody has to really stick to their assignments and stay disciplined to play really that kind of scheme at the end. That's my first point. The second point is the Klint Kubiak offense. So basically, as I said, I'm really hyped for the offense, but we really have to wait if it's the same scheme as he played or as he coached in New Orleans. So that's something where he should be better, but it's kind of an X factor and an X factor winning formula or whatever. And the third thing is the draft, because I wrote down that we need guards. Obviously, we need a cornerback too in our system, and we need some more tight ends for the scheme which Kubiak is playing, because I think these are the 3 biggest things. If we are not cutting half of the roster of the D-line, obviously there are a couple of D-liners leaving the Seahawks, like Jaron Reed, and I think who's the other veteran who's leaving?
Hankins.
I'm always forgetting his name. Yeah. So the draft, the offense, the new scheme, and the discipline of the defense are really the 3 winning formulas for me to have a success in the next season and reaching the playoffs at the end.
This is why I like asking these questions to different people, because we get different points of view. I don't know how many people actually mentioned the draft, the defense, sticking with the assignments.
I don't think anyone has mentioned succeeding in the draft as a key part of the formula. I massively agree with that, and I would, because I'm a nerd
draft nerd.
But I do. We mentioned it. I mentioned it earlier that I think we need to use the draft to create that toolbox for Mike Mack to identify players that fit, rather than square pegs in round holes and picked by John Schneider and here you go, this is everything you ever wanted. But I didn't want any of these things. Thank you, though. That was what we had last year. This is Mike Mack's targets in the draft, and I think one thing we might see this year in the draft is quite a lot of trade backs to split picks to target scheme fits in later rounds, just to fill the roster with depth that is fit for purpose in terms of scheme fits. Maybe not in terms of starting quality players, but players that can come in and fit the system and do a job, rather than picking up other people's players from previous drafts and trying to make them work. I think we'll probably see a lot of bodies come in through the draft this year to do that. So I agree with your point, Pascal. I think that is a really good suggestion.
Nice. Last two questions, and we do have a question that's coming from your countryman Jonas as well to Mitch. So we'll get through that one. But what are your thoughts on the Klint Kubiak hire?
As I said, I'm really hyped because we had that Ryan Grubb situation last year, and I'm not really a fan of this whole college system played in or how he played that college system in the Seahawks. So I'm really hyped for that kind of a lot of motions, as Mitch said, a lot of hopefully better screen game there, because we have that kind of players. We have like player material. Oh, we should not talk about materials, but we have a lot of players where compared to the Saints, although we don't have really the offensive line right now when just looking at the paper, and there is a speedster missing where DK Metcalf can maybe fill that role. But if you really look at the way Kubiak is playing, it could really fit into an interesting division, especially matching against Sean McVay and Shanahan or Sally in this case, because he's playing a lot of a package with one tight end, two running backs, or the other way around, and that could really fit into the Seahawks system because, Josh, as you said, the emergence of running back 2 and 3 at the Seahawks have shown that we can really be having a success with the Kubiak system there. And I also read that he was bringing the quarterback coach from the Saints with him.
He's brought the O-line coach and the quarterback coach with him already.
Yeah, so that's also a good sign there. Yeah,
I have to point out a really intellectual thing here that everyone's going to really enjoy. This insight from Mitch at this point, just interjecting and giving you something really profound. I love how much our new quarterback coach looks like Quagmire. Family Guy. I'm gonna love it all year. It's so good. It's so good.
Jonas actually sent me a message. He sent me a message on Instagram, and just saying, I have to remind you that when it comes to the quarterback coach, you need to mention square pegs in round holes, just due to his jawline.
Amazing. Yeah,
because that is a square jaw. That is a jaw made of iron. If he got punched in the face by a player, he'd break someone's hand.
I vow this year in our Discord on game day, in our game day thread, anytime we throw a touchdown, there will be a Quagmire giggity just thrown in every single time. Every time. Yeah, so I had to do it. I'm sorry to
Brilliant.
Thank you for giving us these insights. But I never thought about it actually. But now I have these pictures right in front of my mind to see.
It's fantastic.
So that's a side by side that's going to happen in our Discord. But yeah, the Kubiak, it can't be any worse for an experiment. I think we said on Ball Hawks that he's going to be able to reach into his bag of tricks. He's already got people in the league he knows that are experienced. I'm going to reserve comment on how good I think it's going to be, because I did that with Grubb, saying I was excited. I'm just going to be nice and reserved and placid and just say, let's see how it goes, shall we?
Yeah, right. Definitely.
So we've arrived at the destination, the draft question. Who do you think, Pascal, are we picking at 18? Do you have a favorite for our pick at 18? Did you have someone that you think is just standing out as an obvious selection at 18? What's your take?
I think the 18th position is really a hard one because you could do everything out of it. As you said, there are a couple of tackles who could play guard at a pro level, like as you said, Kevin Banks, I also had Donovan Jackson and Josh Simmons in there from Ohio State, as well as another player from Missouri. I can't remember his name. But as you said, there is the possibility to really pick and guard there, but you could also, again, pick best player available. This is really the John Schneider way to live. But you could also trade down, as you said, because the guard is not really a position which you pick in the first round. So you could maybe also move down a couple of positions, still get a guard there, maybe get some other draft picks in there. You could also play, I think I had Jihad Campbell also in there as a linebacker who is normally a second round talent, but could be also picked at the end of the first round. So there are really a couple of ways how you could really play the draft, and that makes it kind of interesting, because last year we thought, oh, we only have a first rounder and a third rounder because we could trade down and get maybe a second rounder. But this year is like we have all the picks available throughout the first rounds, and we could still trade down because there is a couple of talent which could be still available a couple of positions later, but there could also be a guard available in the first round, like Kevin Banks. If he really falls into 18, I would drive to at his home and bring him to Seattle in person. But
high on Banks then.
Yeah, I mean, for me, he's like at 10 to 12, something around that. But to be honest, I think you could really play the draft really creative in a creative way, because you have so many options, and I think we are really surprised at the end what John Schneider is picking, because you know how he loves to pick guards or how he loves to pay guards. And especially with the free agency, also you have really a wide room of guards coming on to the free agency. So I can't, when I should say a name, I'm like at Jihad Campbell, Kevin Banks, the only liners which I named earlier. Also maybe a tight end like Loveland. I don't want to answer Jonas' question before, but I think there are a couple of ways how you could really play the draft at the end.
I like that answer. I think when you're picking in the middle of the first, unless you've got someone who's sort of a bona fide top 10 talent who's dropped down to you in your lap, then trading back's always an option when you look at the board. That's just how I pretty much every single mock draft I do. That's how I play it. If I'm picking there, I have to then look at who's there. Is that a positional need that's rated that high? If it's not, I can always trade back. Or if I see someone's dropped, then I'll go, well, I've already got that position, but I can upgrade it by having that and maybe move people around. So I like it. Mitch, do you want your question from Jonas, or have you got your? Go on, you give us your opinion first.
I want to give one thing. I just want to give one opinion here before we do Jonas's question, because it's a great question, but it's going to lead on nicely. I think we're in the value position for this year's draft. If I was looking at the talent and the positions they play, how many actual first round grades there will be this year, I've got 11 this year. We're picking in the exact perfect spot. Somewhere between 16 and 20 is where I would choose to pick this year. Obviously, if you could pick first, you pick first, right? But like, if you're looking at where the value sits in this draft for picking a player that you don't have to pay top 10 money to for the next 5 years, we're in exactly the right spot. And I'll explain why. When you look at the fact that there's a running back that could go in the top 10. There's 2 tight ends that could go in the top 10. There's 5 first-round tackles that won't play tackle at the NFL level. They'll all play guard. Maybe one of them plays tackle and shares a spot or covers a spot, but they'll shift inside. So effectively, you've got 2 tight ends, 5 guards, a running back that could go in the top 20. People aren't going to use top 10 picks on all of those players, which means when you take 2 quarterbacks, which I don't have first round grades on in the first 3, and then you've got running backs and tight ends with first round grades falling because of positional value, we're going to be sat in that sweet spot where first round graded players just fall into our lap. because second round graded quarterbacks go to quarterback needy teams every year, and there's 2 of them that will have to go. The running back will fall to latest 11. He won't reach us because he'll go to the Cowboys. James won't make it to us, but he'll go before. One of the 2 tight ends will go, and then we get to Jonas's question about one of those tight ends potentially falling to 18. Would you run to the podium, or would you still go O-line? I wouldn't go O-line because I don't think the value is there for John. John won't see value in picking a tackle that'll have to play guard and pay first-round money to him for 5 years. It just isn't his MO. John will see, okay, the first 5 tackles in this draft are going to be guards. They will fall down. Then the actual true guards that have played guard at NFL level will then squish out to late first-round, early day 2 picks, and then you'll get a usual second round graded guard in round 3 because those tackles that will play guard have squished everything down. John will be licking his lips thinking he's going to get a second round guard talent in round 3 or 4. That's where John is. So John will get the value in the middle of the draft at guard and pick up a free agent, and we'll be seeing edge rushers, linebackers, best player available in round 1. That's my best guess.
I like it. We've got one more question from Levi. And just before we go, is there a centre worthy of a first-round pick this year?
There's 2 scenarios where someone could do it. There's Dylan Fairchild that might make it into the first round. He's a seriously good centre, but I don't have a first-round grade on him, but could be. And there's Wyatt Milam, who's played guard and tackle for Virginia, who has basically told scouts that he's happy to learn centre to make it at the next level. He could be a seriously good centre, like seriously good. So if he kills it at the combine, Wyatt Milam could get taken as a centre by a team.
Come take him in the first, though. Surely, like if he's played tackle and guard, you're not going to take him in the first round and go, we're going to make you a centre with a first-round draft pick.
But if you've got the measurables and the attitude and the leadership and the communication, and you've played 2 positions like that as a borderline first-round talent / early second-round talent, and you're willing to play a position, that isn't one of those, your floor is being an NFL level tackle or guard. Your ceiling is to be an elite player that can play every position on that line. So you give an immense upside and a really high ceiling, and you also present an extremely high floor, which is kind of what you want when you use a first-round pick on a player, right? You want them to contribute immediately, have a certain amount of versatility, show a really high floor, and excite you with how good they can be. He's going to do all of that for scouts if he likes it to combine.
If you can't tell, Mitch is excited for our draft pods.
Can't wait. Can't wait.
And they will be coming soon. I mean, that brings us to the end of sort of our questions and our talking points for the Seahawks season review episode 4. Pascal, thank you so much. It's been awesome having you on the pod, and it's been great having you as on your second ever pod. We've really, really enjoyed it.
Thank you for having me, actually, and I would love to be more often part of this podcast in the future. It was really a great time here today, and look forward to seeing you again, maybe in London, Josh.
Oh yeah, well, we'll sort that out for more beers. But for anyone who's tuned in, thank you so much. Don't forget you can like, subscribe, hit the notification bell for us. It really, really helps the channel grow. And if you want to join the growing community of this channel, you can join our Discord. It's free. The master of the Discord sits right here in the middle today, Mr. Mitch. We've got SeaHawkers from all over the world. We've got Pascal's fellow countryman Jonas who's in there. Pascal, feel free to join. The link is in the comments here, and you can just talk Seahawks with everyone. Don't worry, you've not got to be in there all the time. I'm not. I dip in and out and just sort of get the up-to-date news from Mitch and everyone else that's in there. It's a fantastic growing community. Like I said, it's free to join. You can just talk to Seahawks fans all over the world about Seahawks in the off season. We've got Bryce Coots in there from the Hawks on Rundown, and the pick is in as well. Plus Clinton Bonner's in there from the SeaHawkers pod. It's just ever growing with some fantastic people in there. And we're hoping that some of the UK-based ones will be coming to the UK Seahawkers meetup as well to meet with me and Mitch for a beer and to talk Hawks. But on that note, I like to finish this pod with a Go Hawks. So would you both like to join me?
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.